Hi everybody, Kyla here from Houndful Hearts. I'm here today to talk to you about food. So over the last several years, for those of you who have followed me, there's been like this evolution towards food for the Basset Hounds. And so as I know more, learn more, do better, know more.
No more, do more.
That's right. You like know more and you do better. So anyways, that's where I'm at today. And so I just thought I'd share because I have so many people that come onto my Instagram page, my YouTube page, really wanting advice on food. I am not a dietitian for dogs. I am in no way an expert, but this is what works for me. This is what makes sense for my family. And this is what makes sense for the puppies that I send home into the world. So the big portion of, I guess the biggest takeaway from the food is feed them like you would feed yourself, unless you go to McDonald's every day. So fruits, vegetables, proteins, carbohydrates. That's what the dogs need. There is very few foods that are unsafe for dogs. There's a lot of misinformation out there, like for example, avocados. Avocados are great for dogs, not the pit. How many people are feeding their dogs the pit of an avocado? Not too many. However, avocados are a great source of protein. They're vitamins, essential nutrients, so good. Now, depending on where you live and your access to fruits and vegetables and proteins, it's going to be different. So here in the Pacific Northwest, during our winter season, it's extremely raining and I can't grow the food that they need. And so I buy frozen vegetables. I don't really do canned. I don't personally eat canned vegetables, but not saying that that's wrong. Just for me and my kids, that's not what we do. So I try to buy what's on sale and I try to buy what's on season. Then secondarily, if I can't find what they need, then I'm gonna go to the frozen foods. And sometimes it's just a little bit easier. I don't cook their vegetables and I don't cook their fruit. You can if you want to. It's kind of how I started off. And then I realized they don't actually need that to be done. And my kids prefer, or they eat just as well, the room temperature instead of par baked or par boiled vegetables. So that's just kind of up to you and what your kids like. So what I start with is a base of kibble. This is 1 cup of kibble. My dogs do probably 3 miles a day minimum. And that's full on running and playing. I feed them once a day. There's a lot of research back and forth about feeding dogs multiple times a day, 1 time a day. This right here is going to be for an adult dog. We're not talking about puppies as they're maturing. We're talking about adult dog. I feed them 1 cup. Now, for a puppy, they need to eat 3 times a day. Their tummies are tiny, they're growing, they need lots of vitamins and nutrients. So for a puppy, you would do what we're doing here, but with the puppy food, and you would do this 3 times a day, okay? There's no science to this as far as how many blueberries do you put in or how many tomatoes? I feed them about 1 cup of kibbles, 1 cup of vegetables and fruits. That's what we do. So I do also give them Nancy's yogurt, a scoop every day, especially the puppies. This will last me maybe a day and a half because I have 6 dogs. So this is essential. And you want to get the kind that is no sugar. I have whole milk yogurt, and this is not sweetened. It's not like vanilla or anything because yeast and bacteria, the bad bacteria, grow in sugar, and I don't want to perpetuate. It would be like Yoplait. It's like giving your kids a soda. It's not beneficial. So I have the cup of kibbles. And then what I've done here, just for my own ease, because I have 6 dogs, is I just took out a couple cups of frozen vegetables. So I have green beans, I have carrots, peas. This one happened to have corn in it, not my favorite, but red peppers, sweet peppers. You know how you can get them in the package and then they're bite size? I get those because they're easier for me to cut. But peppers are great for kids, especially the red peppers. If you have a picky eater, red peppers are actually one of the foods that most dogs will eat if they are picky. So I just kind of stir this up. For my kids, I cut some things down because they're dodos. Like this right here, this tomato, they'll think it's a toy and so they won't eat it because they don't know how to bite into it. So I cut it for them. It's the same thing with the blueberries. When I put these big fat blueberries in, I just kind of squish them or cut them because they just don't eat them unless I do that. They just don't understand. Again, I love them, but they're not super Mensa. So that's what we have. During the summer months, so like I grew this beet, I'm just gonna chop this up into little pieces and put it in their food. I have some strawberries, and again, I'm just gonna kind of cut some of it so that they'll eat it. It doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be hard, truly. Like, make this as easy as possible in your life. So I do that. There was like this blackberry. It's just like all of you. You're not going to eat blackberries every day, but you know, you do need those vitamins and nutrients. So I'm just kind of squishing. Can you hand me the salmon oil and the egg if you're able to? Camera's going to move a second, peeps. If you can't, it's okay. Okay. So I have just a handful in there. I also, these are things that I buy. I buy salmon oil. There's different types of salmon oil that you can buy. Just pick one. It's really good for their coats, and I just put a couple of drops on there because if you put too much, then it gives them diarrhea and it just doesn't help. The other thing that I do is I have the eggshells, and when you eat your eggs in the morning, or most of the time my kids get one egg in their food because eggs are literally the best thing you can feed your dog. Hands down, best thing. Takeaway from here is A, it's not complicated, and B, give your dog an egg every day. So what I do with the shells is I just put them in my immersion blender and blend them up and then sprinkle it on their food. It's so good for them. So we got that. Then the next thing is that we have the Nuvet. This is the vitamins that I feed my kids. For a big kid, it takes 2. Most of my kids will just eat this as a treat. They're like, oh, this is delicious. Whittler, he's a little bit picky, so I always have to break his in half before I put it in there, okay? So, let's put their... So this is what we've got so far, okay? We've got the salmon oil kind of coating everything. We got the eggshell. Everything's kind of chopped up. And the last thing that I do is I add protein. I have gotten away from using chicken because it is just an allergen. There's so much antibiotics used in chicken that it is really difficult for me to afford organic, you know, all of the chicken that they would need because I've got 6 dogs and I have to be realistic on what I can do, and I just can't do that. And the beef, they seem to respond to better with their coats and allergies. That being said, I do buy expensive chicken and dehydrate it for them for their treats. I make them their little Cheetos.
Yes.
Sure. I'll show you kind of what I do with the avocado. And they just need a little bit. We're not talking about a huge amount. It's just like you and I. So they've got some avocado in their food. I have a tomato here I need to kind of scrunch because they're not going to eat it. Some of my kids will, like Olive will eat it, Otis will, but the rest of them are like no-go. So I've got everything kind of mixed up here. Let me just rinse off my hands real quick. I'm not going to overdo it because I don't want to hurt their bellies, but for tomorrow I have this in order to give them, so we're good. And today I'm not going to give them this. Tonight for their little, because I'm feeding them a little bit early, I'm going to give them a scoop of this in a bowl with some berries on top so that they can have a little date night treato. Like when Mom and I have our ice cream, they're going to have their little kid ice cream. So that's what we do. Other things you can add is cheese. Sometimes I do that for my kids because they love cheese and it just gets to be a half full. Cottage cheese, literally, you can't go wrong. There's very, very few foods that are not good for your kids. The basic understanding is fruits, vegetables, kibbles, proteins. You're good. Don't become like in a place where it makes it like a burdensome to feed your kids. It doesn't have to be horrible. But when you give your dogs good nutrition, just like you do your human children, the longevity is going to be great. You're gonna reduce cancers, you're gonna reduce arthritic issues, you're gonna be giving them the vitamins and nutrients that they need. It used to be like, oh, just give the dog some Alpo in the backyard, but we treat our animals different in this day and age than they did in the 50s. There's been so much research that's gone into feeding animals through the veterinary community that we just know better, and so therefore we can do better. So I challenge you to see what you can do to add these good foods to your kids' diet, because I think you'll see a huge difference in their well-being. Okay? All right. Come on, Kamara. Come on. There you go. Good girl. You good girl. Is that so beautiful and tasty?
Yeah, except she ate all of Otis's. She doesn't need a whole lot.
Good girl. Yeah, delicious.